Hello and welcome to episode 25 of Pastor Billy Joe Hillbilly's Tidbits. The other day I was thinking about the creation of life. And I started wondering if scientists had managed to, quote unquote, create life in a lab, in a laboratory. So I did a little, Googling, and I found an article that was talking about how scientists had managed to create, I don't remember now if it was RNA or DNA, and to be honest, I can't remember off the top of my head what the difference is between the two. And for this discussion or, episode, this video, it doesn't really matter. I'm sure you can find the article if you go search online for it. You can find it, I'm sure. But either way, they created this strands of RNA or DNA and introduced those into a host cell, I believe is how the story went. Don't quote me here, but I believe that's how it worked. They introduced it into a living cell, and it replicated it. I mean, it functioned the way RNA or DNA, whichever it is supposed to function. So they managed to basically assemble this from amino acids. Which, this is incredible. I'm not in any way saying this is not an incredible achievement. Wow. In all truth, I'm not trying to be funny or whatever. I really think that's amazing. But I don't see it as creating life. You've introduced the article, I believe it said synthetic DNA or RNA, whichever it was, which to me sounds like something made of plastic. It was a man-made, RNA or DNA strands or whatever. And they were introduced into a living cell, which, that they didn't create that. They didn't create the actual compounds, as far as I know. Even if they had to have atoms to build those from, and they certainly didn't create that. But anyway, so calling it the creation of life. Anyway, so they managed to create a cell that replicated, which I guess is like the most basic form of reproduction, I guess. And again, that's an incredible feat. That's a remarkable achievement, but I don't see it as really the creation of life. But either way, so they did this, and I started thinking, where humans are incredibly advanced. Humans are, we have tools, devices, we have equipment that I probably couldn't even understand the function of, some of these tools and devices and all of that humans have created and so on. And we have labs where we can reproduce incredible ranges of, environmental type, we can take atoms and split them. That's nuclear fission. We can take them and combine them and generate energy and, and all of that good stuff, which is fusion. And yet, given all of that, the year 2020, which I think they actually did this last year, but not relevant. But in the year 2020, and what we've managed to do is take and create some type of self-replicating RNA, DNA, or whatever, and it actually functioned the way RNA or DNA is supposed to function, which again is incredible. But with all the tools we have at our disposal, these laboratories where we can create, wow, I mean, and I just started thinking, that's what we can do at this point. How, in the holy name of God, how can you possibly believe that millions of years ago in a bog, a swamp, basically, in a pond of goo, that life was created? What special sets of circumstances existed millions of years ago on the primordial earth, supposedly? What special circumstances existed that we can't create today in a lab? Heat, cold, energy. I mean, we've got amino acids. We can create those from molecules, I guess. We can. So why is it, if we can't do any more than just create, self-replicating cells that, that's what we can do now? How is it that you could possibly believe that millions of years ago that process happened in basically a swamp spontaneously? Really? Millions of years ago in a pond of goo, this happened. No one was directing it to happen. No one was, pouring this chemical into that chemical and shaking, and, shaken, not stirred. You'll mess it all up if you stir it. What? Really? As advanced as we are, and that's what we can do now, and somehow scientists believe that this process of creating life, of the creation of life, happened spontaneously millions of years ago, before there was any people to to manipulate these chemicals and so on, these amino acids and compounds and molecules and so on and so forth, and etc., that it just happened all by itself in a swamp. Certainly that's not the most ideal, location with all that we have now, the labs and all of the tools we have at our disposal. We've managed to sort of put together DNA that sort of functions the way it's supposed to. RNA, DNA, whatever it was. Again, doesn't matter to me. But that millions of years ago, this just happened. Spontaneously just happened. You see, to me, the creation of life is not just blending chemicals, taking I've got 3 parts of, argon and 6 parts oxygen and 2 parts hydrogen. And, what? People, I know that physical life is really just, cells and, atoms and molecules and, whatever, and amino acids and, that kind of thing. But to me, life, it seems to be more than just a mixture of chemicals, elements and molecules and compounds and what have you. But I mean, it's like life is more than that. And the creation of life wasn't just the creation, not just the blending of these compounds and them spontaneously just deciding to, replicate and then form into, bundles of cells that function some particular way, and those started growing arms and legs so that they could move around better, and all that. I mean, it's just on the surface, to me at least, and I'm not educated like some of you, but it's preposterous. It's ridiculous. I mean, this didn't happen spontaneously millions of years ago in a bog, in a swamp. That's just silly. I'm sorry. It's just, it doesn't make sense. They're just not how, I just don't see that that's how life began. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So all I'm asking, this is all I will ever ask, is for you just to think. Just think for yourself. Don't rely on your, ninth grade, chemistry teacher or biology teacher to tell you what to believe. Maybe they went to school longer than you did. Fine. Does that mean that they know that everything they tell you is correct? Does it mean that they're right on everything? They may know more things than you, but there also may be things they think they know and they've presented as facts when maybe the evidence backing up those quote unquote facts is a little shaky. Maybe even if it all makes sense to them, and even does it make sense to you deep down in your heart of hearts, in the deepest part of you, your mind, your brain, does it make sense that this just happened spontaneously in a pond millions of years ago, that it just, life assembled itself? It will never make sense to me. Okay, so forget what the scientists have told you. Think for yourself. Does it make sense? Is it logical? Is it, what? Forget what they're pointing to as facts. Forget what they're telling you. This is, this is the going theory. This is what we believe. This is what we have evidence of, or whatever. Just ask yourself if it's logical. If it's just, the universe just sprang into existence 13.8 billion years ago and then all by itself. There's no explanation that I've seen so far that really explains where that initial explosion, what created it, what made that happen. So I have to doubt all of it, including the origin of life. It just makes more sense that there's someone out there that put it all together. Something to think about. All right. Have a good day.